You're listening to Leadership Recalibrated, where we dismantle outdated leadership playbooks and explore the new way to lead. I'm Lori Lalonde, founder of Her Executive Ascent, and I created this podcast because I was tired of hearing the same recycled advice about what it takes to be a good leader. You know the scripts: be more confident, lean in, develop executive presence. But what if those scripts were written for a leadership model that no longer works? What if the future of leadership looks less like commanding authority and more like strategic influence, emotional intelligence, and authentic power? Each week, we take on the questions most leadership programs avoid, the power dynamics nobody teaches, and the decisions that actually shape your career. This is where you stop following the old rules and start designing the leadership career that fits who you are now and where you're going next. Let's recalibrate. On this episode, I sit down with Rekha Narang. She is a Director of Partner Technology, Global Channels Partner Solutions for Microsoft. Her team's mission is to build Microsoft Cloud technical capability and capacity across the Canadian partner ecosystem to accelerate innovation and digital transformation with AI. Rekha is a leader focused on building leadership within her team and those around her. Her passion and purpose are to help people grow beyond what they might think is possible for themselves. Let's get into it. Welcome to the podcast today, Rekha. It's so good to have you.
So excited to be here, Lori. Always
Oh,
talking to you, but excited to be here in your podcast.
oh my goodness. I mean, this is such a dream because we go back quite a
We
ways
do.
working together at Microsoft, which were the best years of my life, especially because I look to you as a role model quite a bit. And you were very much an advocate for everyone and a DEI champion. And so your vocalness and your ability to stand up for what was right and setting boundaries served as a role model for me. So I'm forever grateful to you because that's how I model my leadership as well. I'm thrilled that we're going to have this discussion today.
Me too. And before we dive into the questions, I need to reflect that back on you because I don't, and I've said this to you before, I'm going to say it because we're recording it today. You actually showed me the way because you gave me language. You gave me like examples of how powerful allyship can be, how powerful speaking it can be, and pointing to the right things I hadn't considered before. I'll never forget when you joined my team meeting and we did that exercise together on checking your privilege. And it was a really uncomfortable thing that we did together with my team, but it was a catalyst for me. So as much as you say I'm a role model for you, you were my teacher in all of this, and it really shaped me in my leadership. So I just want to thank you for that.
Oh, I appreciate that. And that's, yeah, I don't want to cry. Thank you. So I invited you on today because you have such a powerful story to share. And it was something that I recall you sharing when we were working together, and that you shared with the community internally. And it's that experience with burnout early in your leadership journey. So I'd love for you to share what was going on for you at that time and how did you navigate that?
Yeah. And thanks for asking me to share the story. And I think it's really important thing to kind of set straight because as much as I kind of zero in on like a specific phase in a series of events where I think things came to a head, I think we all teeter on the edge of burnout and overwhelm. And so I think there was like a slow build over like probably my entire life leading up to that point. And I'll describe kind of more what happened in that situation. But there's some lessons here about just like catching those behaviors early because it's not something you just solve in one thing. It's like, oh, I went through burnout and now I'm on the other side of it. It's something you have to keep revisiting. And I actually think my story probably is muted relative to what other people experience as well. But I don't think we talk about it enough, which is why I'm just glad to share the story. So it was back in 2018, and I think we've all experienced some version of, we call this the sandwich generation, but it really to me is like when that juggling act that we are all kind of trying to keep up with, you just have too many balls in the air. And so I think what kind of got added to my plate at that time is, my parents moved to Toronto from the East Coast. They were in that phase of life where they needed more support from their kids, and we were really happy to lean in and provide that support. They happened to move in around the corner from me, and and I was like quite happy to take it on, right? It's like, yeah, and I wasn't doing it alone. I was doing it with my siblings, and I'm really lucky to have that support system. I think their proximity to me put a bit of additional load on our plates, and my kids were young too, and I started a new job, and my husband started a new job. all at the same time, right? And so all of those things as separate things are, oh, cool. Like I could do that. Like I could do hard things. I like change. I like ambiguity. I like challenges. So none of those things in isolation seemed concerning. And what I didn't, even though I have a math degree, what I didn't think through was what does the summation of all that stuff actually mean? So it was just going through these, just like, it wasn't like bursts of intensity, which I can handle. It was like sustaining it for months. And so that was like the backdrop. It kind of came to a head over a period of 4 to 6 months, and because, like, I'm, like, this hyper logical person, I'm emotional, like, I respond emotionally to things, but, like, my decision-making process is more logical, and again, go back to the math piece. I'm like, "This equation isn't working, so I have to take something out of the equation here. What's in my control right now?" Like, my parents' health is not in my control. My kids need me. The one thing that was in my control was I can actually step away from my job, and again, reflecting on just the privilege of being able to make that choice, the gratitude of working at a company that gave me space to take an unpaid leave and come back to a job eventually. I ended up having to leave the business for 6 months to just do a lot of work on myself and rethink a few things and come back stronger, healthier, and wiser, to move forward. But just to go back to what you first asked, it's just like too many things going on all at once.
Yeah, definitely. And it sounds like the perfect storm just hit. And as you alluded to, likely even before that, you were probably already running on fumes leading up to that, I assume, because, the way that we show up to work and how that does follow us at the end of the day. I mean, were you feeling any of that before that even hit? Does that resonate?
It's it's a really good question, and I kind of want to think it through as I share my thoughts. I think one learning I had was time does not actually impact my burnout factor that much. And what do I mean? Like, so if I'm spending 10, 12 hours a day at work, but I have a level of confidence and clarity, and it's not like the stress I'm carrying while I'm doing that does not make me run on fumes. I can actually find it quite energizing. So, like, I've never been somebody who needs like a set amount of hours away from the business or away from like taking a break. What really happened to me was it was the amount of ambiguity I was dealing with. So it wasn't so much of a function of time, it was like the ambiguity was taxing because it was like figuring out all the stuff with my parents. So I had to develop a whole new framework for how we were giving them care and then bringing that into our life. That was a highly ambiguous thing that we had to think through and go through a number of iterations of getting it right. Brand new job. I didn't know if I was good at it. Right? So I probably wasn't putting any more time in than I was with my previous job, but my previous job I was good at, right? Like I knew it. I knew I was delivering impact every single day. When you step into a new job and you're trying to prove yourself, so just carrying that ambiguity factor, that was more the issue. So yes, like working hard is something that we always have to keep in check, and how much time are we actually like kind of giving to ourselves and our personal wellness. But it was just a really interesting reflection. It's like I think like if I hadn't taken on a new job, I might have been okay actually. So and when give people coaching now, I'm like just be really intentional about the amount of new things that you're adding to your plate because that carries a different weight with it.
That's really insightful. I love that point because we could run on autopilot with scenarios where that we're comfortable with or used to. I think for me, I had a journey into burnout, but it was more related to the incongruence in values, right? Like
Mhm,
there's a point in time where I was very firm on I will operate in a role as long as I can operate according to my values. And the minute that that changes, I'm going to have to reconsider what my next move is. And that shift was happening with a shift in leadership I had, which then led to burnout because then it was about being told, Laura, you care too much about people. You have to stop doing that. put that into the business. And that for me in a leadership role was like a non-negotiable. It's like, no, no, no. I'm in this role to care about the people. I care about the people and then
Yeah,
they care about the business. Everything matters. It all ties together. There's no either or. And I could care about both, but with different levels of intensity. So my burnout was the misalignment
yep,
in values, not so much the work, because the work was manageable.
yep,
So yeah, I understand that it's not about time or hours, but it is about where your energy is being put to the test, essentially. And so for you,
100%.
it was a lot of new things, and
It's the mental load, right? And I think
yeah,
that's where hard work is not like something like I'm a hard worker and I enjoy that, but it's when the mental load gets too much, that's where the overwhelm comes in, and it can come from, a lack of congruence in values. It can come from, ambiguity. It can come from like how much we're taking on from what's happening in the broader world. A really big thing for me in managing that aspect of mental load, I think last January, I completely went off social. The only social platform I'm on is right now is LinkedIn. I'm off everything. And it was a really eye-opening experience for me because I did not really factor in how much mental load that was adding, which was mostly like dialogue on news cycles and all the terrible things that are happening around us that are really, really hard to carry. And I just couldn't sit in that. And I didn't realize how that much was adding to my mental load. And my husband reflected, he's like, "You're like a completely different person. Your energy is different, right?" So really paying attention to those things that are adding to your mental load is a very important thing to watch for burnout and just overwhelm in general.
yeah, absolutely. I was very guilty of doom scrolling quite a bit.
Most of the world
I
is.
I deleted Twitter though, the minute it was sold, and I was like, "Yep, I think I'm off of this now." And then with TikTok, it's been recent. There were changes where it was purchased separately for specifically the US to manage the US factor. I felt like a lot of the influencers I followed from the US were, you know, in, you know, in the situation where they likely were going to get banned. So they were moving over to Instagram, Substack, and I've just followed them there. And I was like, okay, well, I don't need TikTok anymore. So then I deleted it. And boy, how much time that frees up. And it's funny because I still will have friends sending me things from TikTok and they're like, you're not on here anymore. I just can't send it to you in TikTok. I'm like, don't send it to me anywhere else either because I'm not going to watch it. Like
Yep.
I'm off of
And
it.
that's
I'm
kind
trying
of
to
where I'm
reduce
at
that.
too. The One of the best reflections I have is like I don't even have an inclination to click click the link. And
Yeah.
if I did feel like, "Oh wow, like you have a lot of strength to kind of hold on to this," I'm like, I'm not stopping myself from doing something I wanna do, I've just left it behind,
Yeah.
and I'm very grateful for it again, and no judgment for people who are still on. I know a lot of people, like, stay connected that way, and they get a lot of their news cycles, but it has been a very, very positive step I've taken for my wellness and the mental load that I carry.
Yeah. It does make a difference. My daughter's instituted a rule in the house
Yeah,
that in the mornings, it's phone-free mornings, that
nice.
we should all be present and having coffee together and having breakfast because she lives with me now. She was in her own place for a while. She's decided to stay home with me for a bit, and I am loving that because selfishly, she just adds so much fun to my day, but she also holds me accountable. So
I love it.
I have her holding me accountable to that as well as to move more. But back to your story. So,
Yes.
like, your burnout, you took time away. What was the moment where you decided I need to step away and reset for my own well-being and focus on one thing at a time and focus on what really matters right now?
Yeah, and it did happen in a moment. I actually coincidentally enough, I was at an event with a partner, um, at the exact place where the decision was made in my head, like, exactly 7 years after the fact. So it was really weird. It was almost like an anniversary, and I'll tell you where it was. So, like I said, it was a bit of a slow build, and I know there were voices in my head saying, "Yep, something's not right," and I pay a lot of attention to my self-talk. I pay a lot, like, I really check in, I'm like, when it starts to get a little bit negative, I'm like, "Oh, that's different, right? That's not really who I am." So I really am switched on when that starts to happen. So that was happening over, a period of months. And then I went with a couple of girlfriends, for a spa day, which is something I love to do for my personal wellness. That's like one of the most rejuvenating things I do. And I was sitting on a massage table and when you know what that's like, right? Like you're really kind of in your body, in your head, sensory deprivation. And I I was like, something's gotta change. Something has to change. And I had such resolve, so much clarity, made the decision in that moment, came home, told my husband, I'm like, I am going in on Monday and I'm telling my manager that I am resigning because something has got to give. Because if I continue with this, it's going to be me. Right. Because by that point, like I had like a rash all over my body. There was all these different symptoms. And like, if you look through the burnout checklist, which I did after the fact, I'm like, oh, yeah, like if somebody had given this to me earlier, I would have seen that I checked most of these boxes. And I'm a really decisive person. Right. So once I make a decision, I really stick with it. And so I was telling him, I wasn't asking him. And again, very privileged to be able to say, "Listen, I will figure it out. I'll get a job eventually. I trust my qualifications. Right now, this is not serving me, our family." Then I went in less than 48 hours later to my manager at Microsoft, and his first question was like, "Oh my god, which competitor are you going to?" I'm like, "I'm not. I'm leaving. I'm stepping outside the workforce." Which again, we hear this happening all the time. Women stepping out of the workforce because the pressures are just too high. And I was one of those women 8 years ago now. And I was ashamed, right? I was like, "We'll keep it on the down low. Like, what are we gonna say to people? I don't want to model that this is normal." Can you imagine at the time? And that's what I was thinking. And he was confused. And he was like, "Have you talked to HR?" He's like, "Why do you feel like you need to resign?" I'm like, what are the choices there?" He's like, "Maybe there's a leave you can take. Maybe there's different things. Like, go talk to HR." And then HR work with me. And like again, and I was very insistent. Like I'm like, I want to go on an unpaid leave. And they completely supported me through all that. And then about 6 months later, my manager reached out to me, like, just want to check in, you ready to come back? And I was at that time. I was ready to come back. I wasn't sure what that meant, right? But I came back a different person. I had a different resolve. I was just grounded in different things. I wasn't gonna let myself get swept up the way I was before. And it's funny, like, in many ways, I picked up right where I left off. This whole fear of leaving the business, and I know the pace of change is way faster than it even was 8 years ago, but it was still moving things were moving really fast. It was like I didn't skip a beat. Right, and nobody was like, "Oh my god, you're back. It's been 6 months." Like, actually, my manager on our first town hall after we came back, he was like, "I just wanna let everybody know that Rekha needed to take some time off for herself, and we're really glad she did that, and we're really support." And I was just like, "Oh my goodness." Like, I thought we were gonna try to keep this in the down low, but again, like modeling, right? Like, it's okay, sometimes you just need to go do this, and then a couple months later, I stepped into a new role again. And, it wasn't taken off the table for me because I had stepped away from the business. And, it actually brought me to like what I really call my dream job, right? Like this job I have now and I've had for many years is the best job of my career. So a really, really happy ending. And I know it sounds simple, but like making the decision, showing the weakness, thinking about what is modeling to people who are looking up to you. Like there was a lot of self-doubt, right? And a lot of people were like, "Why are you doing that?" People thought it was weak. And I'm just like, "No, I know what I need to do for myself." So it was, man, one of the smartest decisions I've ever made.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy you did that because I can't imagine what the outcome would have been had you just tried to push through it or left Microsoft altogether and we wouldn't have been able to work together. That would have been a sad thing for me. But since
Yes,
that experience, have you noticed there are moments or periods of time where you feel like you could be moving in that same direction towards burnout again? Or do you have ways that you monitor?
I do. So, and I got to keep it real, right? So there are times where I am exhausted. Like I'm exhausted, like all of us. So I don't ever want to make it seem like I've got it all figured out because I think some people look to me like, "Oh, you seem really balanced. You think like I'll figure it out." Like, come tell me how to do it. And I'm like, "No, I don't have all the answers. I don't have it all figured out. but I am very, very, very intentional about maintaining my balance. So I put a lot of work into that. Like, as an example, like, last 2 weeks have been really busy. There's been, like, work travel, not just for me, for my husband, and even for my son. Like, we've all been, like, ships in the night with each other, and work travel always is additive to your plate because you still have to keep the business going, so that it comes with a lot of evening work and whatnot. It was, like, one of those perfect storm few weeks where you have, like, lots of deadlines, you've got meetings you gotta prepare for, so it was intense. So, this morning, I chilled. I take that time back, right? Like, I didn't jump on my 9 o'clock call because 'cause I'm like, "You know what? My team's got that." I I just said this morning, I can't keep this pace because 'cause I'm gonna just run myself to the ground. So, I take that time back unapologetically now because I have confidence that I am delivering, for the business. So, if I take this time back here and there, that's actually what the company is expecting me to do because I'm preserving the longevity of my role, my ability to function in this role by doing that. And I don't see people making those same choices, right? When I look at, like, to the left and right and see some of my peers, it's just like you cannot be always on 24/7. Something's got to give, right? And so, like, conceptually, that's kind of where I stand on it. I actually have a framework, and I guess I didn't really realize I had a framework until someone said, like, "Hey, could you come talk to," it was actually the whole organization, about balance because you seem very balanced. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I actually do feel very balanced, right? This is after all of this. So I'm like, let me think about this and what would I say to a group of like a couple hundred people if they want to learn from me on this. And it became really clear to me. I'm like, okay, like balance, what does that mean? I'm like, it's not a math equation. It's not about, I cut it off at 5 because I don't do that. My work hours are all over the map. There are days that I'm working until 12, and there are days that I don't start till 12 p.m., right? So like, my ebbs and flows of my work cycle are very, very unorthodox, but it works for me. To me, balance is a feeling, right? It's actually like just a genuine feeling. And I'm not like a yogi by any chance, but I have practiced yoga for 20 years. And a yoga balance pose has two components. It's grounding and lifting. Right? So you can't achieve a balanced pose unless you have a strong, stable base. That's called your grounding. And then the lifting is when you start to do more challenging things with your upper body, right? So it's like you might have your hands in prayer position and they'll lift above your head. Like that's how you kind of challenge yourself to kind of further your balance posture. So then I realized I'm like, this is actually how I live my life because I'm a planner. And every Sunday I have a planning ritual that I actually love. I deeply enjoy it. And I plan my week. And what I realized I was doing when I was doing through the lens of preparing for this session was that I make sure I have my grounding activities. So the things that just need to be true every day and every week for a stable foundation. That's very personal. For me, it's like meals are a really big deal for me and my family growing up. Like food's very central in our life. So it's like, do we have a plan for healthy meals 3 days a week for all of us? Do I have time to exercise? Do I have a hold on my calendar? I cannot cope with being swept up in calendar chaos. I have to be in control of my time, and that comes with planning. So like I had this set of grounding rituals. But if that is all my week was just like delivering on the things that kind of should be doing, then that's not a joyful life, right? So, like, every week I have to have lift, and it can be different things, right? It can be, like, going out for dinner with friends, it can be going for a walk with a friend, it can be planning a trip, it can be doing something like helping somebody, like mentoring somebody. I get a lot of joy out of that, but I always make sure and I literally have day by day plan, and if I don't see the right balance between grounding and lifting, I'm like, "I'm not gonna feel balanced this week," and some weeks are imbalanced because it's just so. But at least I go in eyes wide open. I'm like, I'm gonna feel imbalanced this week. And actually last week might have been a little bit like that. But then I'm like, okay, I can do this for a week and then I gotta get back to my steady state. So like super intentional. I have been doing it for like a decade now. I think I didn't have the right amount of balance between ground and lift before the burnout piece, but this type of planning I've been doing for a very long time. And now I'm just like, oh God, need more joy in this week. Where do I slot in the joy? And, my friends were even just commenting, they're like, "Thank you for being our chief fun officer," because that's what I do. Like, every Monday morning, they'll hear from me because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, let's go plan. Let's go book the play. Let's go book the concert. Let's go do the things," so that we're all getting that lift.
Oh my goodness, yes. I need more lift in my life. I have more of it now that I'm in
Good.
control of my own day, but, oh yeah, there were when I look back at my time in corporate and I think, where were the moments of lift, if you put it in that way, which I love, and I think that's so powerful to think of it that way. They were few and far between. Yet, I would coach my team to take care of themselves in that way. But
Yep.
I something about me taking care of myself felt selfish, and it was challenging for me to do, to be honest. And so I definitely was sacrificing my well-being to be the strength for everyone else, and because I thought that that's what everyone needed, and they didn't. I mean, they really didn't. I mean, when I went on short-term disability leave, everyone was fine, and I was really scared to take that leave because I'm like, "My team needs me, my team needs me," and at that time, my therapist had said to me, "When you are drowning and your team is drowning with you, the only way you can help them is if you get out of the water." And that stayed with
Yep.
me, and that was something that I was very that's how I think about it. From that point forward, I was thinking about that. Am I drowning? Am I fit to take care of my team? And when I know that I'm not at that point where I can even take care of myself, that's when I know it's time. Book the PTO. Don't even try to make excuses. So many times people, when they book their PTO, they try to give you like a novelist why they're booking it. And need to know why you're booking it, just book it. And so because I'm telling them that, in a way, I was telling myself that too. And I just no explanation, just I'm taking this day. It's a mental health day, it's a sick day, it's a vacation day, whatever the reason. No more explanation was needed other than that. So,
So much there that I wanna comment on. So, and I mean, this whole thing is like, does my team need me? Does anybody need me? Like, we're adaptable creatures, right? So I think the fact that people can adapt when you're gone doesn't necessarily mean that you're not needed, right? But I think that we should also take comfort in that people will adapt. When leaders leave, leaders emerge. So I think, your team did need you, but what's more important is your team needed you to be well.
yeah,
And that's the part that we miss. And I take modeling more seriously than I ever have, right? It's like that say-do ratio, and I see it, it's still rampant. It's like managers who are constantly messaging us when they're on vacation. It actually, like, I find it extremely triggering. It's like you're telling everybody that that's what you expect them to do when
yeah,
they're on vacation. And it's like, "No, no, 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 then just don't do it. Like, delay send it because guess what? We got this." And, like, we have to keep that stuff in check. And this whole, like, battle with, is it selfish to take care of yourself? I have completely reframed that in my mind because I think, we come from a generation, I think I come from a culture where, like, self-care is seen as selfish. I think in many ways it's one of the most selfless things you can do because if you're taking care of yourself, that's to make sure that other people don't have to eventually. Because when we don't
yeah,
take care of ourselves, we do become other people's problems.
yeah,
And, like, so, like, I've really, like, worked very hard. I've done a lot of reading, I've done a lot of reflecting, and, I had to kind of really make myself okay with the guilt I was carrying about, like, my own mental health, my own physical health, putting that first. I'm like, and, like, now that, like, my kids are getting older, I'm like, "Oh my goodness, I'm doing this for them. I'm doing
yeah,
this for them." And as leaders, I just don't understand why we haven't figured out that every move we make is modeling what we expect from our teams.
yeah,
And that vacation shaming, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Like, "Oh, you're going on vacation again?" And now I'm just like, "Absolutely. I'm
yeah,
gonna use every
yeah,
little bit of vacation." And by the way, and I buy 5 extra days too,
yep.
because
I
it's
did
not
that too.
enough. It's not enough. And guess what? Everything still is delivered and over delivered, and it doesn't have to come at a high personal cost that we put on ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And this is the piece that I've seen and I've heard from numerous women, especially as they become more senior or get into the leadership and senior leadership roles, is the concern that if they do that, if they set boundaries or if they take that time away to recover from burnout or even admit they have burnout, they're worried, about what that means for them afterwards. It's like, will I be still eligible for advancement or am I going to be seen as less capable? And that's a challenge because I don't know what to say in those scenarios other than, you know, your health and well-being comes first. I learned the hard way. It takes a lot longer to come out of burnout when you're deep in it than if you catch it before you're too far gone, really. Because I was literally having panic attacks between meetings, and my partner, we were both working from home at the time, and he was like, "What's going on?" And he's like, "You need to go see a doctor. You need to go on leave." And I was
Yeah.
still thinking I was holding it together. Like, that's, I shouldn't laugh. Like, it took him telling me, like, this has to stop. You cannot go on like this. And there were so many warning signs along the way, but I ignored because I had that same feeling at that time. If I do this, I know it's over for me. And like my career and things like that, or I'm gonna be seen differently. But I did it and I don't regret that I did it. So what do you say to the women who feel like doing that or setting those boundaries will cost them those advancement opportunities?
And I'll tell you exactly like a series of things that I say to them because this is a very like active conversation I have with a lot of the people that I work with. Well, first of all, I think part of why I like to tell this story is because I think it demonstrates that it didn't actually hold me back career wise. It quite genuinely didn't. So I think there's just a lot of perception that just isn't true. Right. So I think that just normalizing that and I think it's changed. The landscape there has changed dramatically, but I know a lot of people just still carry that concern. And for me, like the broader question on setting boundaries, which I think a lot of people struggle with. I think in general, I've seen, my female colleagues and friends and peers struggle with it more than my male counterparts. And so one of the things is I just try to point to examples. Right? When people are like, "Oh, I can't say no to all this stuff because then it's going to impact my year-end performance review." I'm like, "Okay, well look at so and so. They're super successful. Well, they're like levels above us." And I'm like, and this is a person that we know says no to things because we see that. How has it impacted them? You have to create those moments of discomfort, like, and actually the reframe on it is like, because they've said no, it's actually led to their advancements. And I think when we are clear on our boundaries, what we're communicating is we have control on our business. We know what those boundaries are, right? So it's not saying no to something, it's being clear about what you're prioritizing. So as an example, I knew this month was going to be full on, right? In my first week of January, before we started the recording, I was sharing with you. I'm like, wow, okay. Every week there's like something big going on that I need to do some heavy prep for, and a lot of it is like new stuff. Like I had to do a keynote that's new for me on this new topic. So I got to figure that out. So it was really good stuff, challenging stuff, but like stuff that was going to be time intensive. So I'm like, I need to be clear with the people that I am accountable to and I'm partnering with inside and outside of work on what's up. Made a list of the things that I was focused on that month. Like I do this like part of my regular planning is like I ask myself, what are my glass balls? What are the things I absolutely can't drop for this month? And I have like, okay, January list, January big things is what I call it. And I do this every month. February big things. So my January big thing month was a bit longer than it normally is. And it was a lot of things that we talked about, that mental load piece, a lot of ambiguous things. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to be a little bit stressed about this stuff because it's not just things I can do in my sleep. And I made the list, and my business partner, who we do a lot of things together, I'm like, I got to walk you through this list. I said, just so you can understand, because I might be a little bit MIA in places that I normally am. I just need you to understand kind of what's really like hot on my plate this month. And it was great. He's like, "Oh, okay, great. Like you do, yes, some wonderful but things, just nothing but support." My manager, nothing but support. My husband, nothing but support. Setting expectations with people differentiates you as a strong leader, in my opinion,
Yeah.
right? And I just think that we get caught up in this cycle of saying no makes us look bad. Like, it I'm not actually using the words "no," right? But I'm being really clear with my boundaries and what I'm prioritizing, which can shift. If my boss is like, "You know what? Actually, I don't want you to do that." Great, let's have a conversation about it and what comes on the plate, what moves off the plate. But I think it demonstrates strength, and
Yeah.
I don't think we lean on it enough. And boundaries aren't hard. Like, my visual image of a boundary is less of a fence. It's more like it's like a semi-permeable, you know, kind of membrane that's, like, got a really good filter. It's got a really good filter so that the gunk stays out, but stuff can still flow in, right? But, there's gotta be some intention, and I see people who, I care about deeply who just, take it on because I think that's the formula, and the only formula that is the formula to burnout.
Yeah, I definitely and I've been guilty of that, but I've learned from that. And that
Good.
glass ball analogy I carry with me in, like, my rules going forward after working with you because I remember you telling me about that, and that was such, like, a light bulb moment for me, literally. But I, like, say to I carried that same advice when I was mentoring others and seeing
Awesome.
that same behavior and seeing how chaotic it was, like from the
Yeah,
outside looking in and saying, you can't keep going like this. What three glass balls absolutely cannot break today? Everything else, let it go. But what
yep,
are the three things that cannot
yep,
fall? And I use that and that was really helpful in coaching the managers that reported to me. And the thing that was interesting recently in my lived experience, the mentoring and coaching I got from amazing people like you, and then mentoring others and kind of seeing the different ways that people are approaching their work and how that could lead to burnout. And I had a leadership recalibrated masterclass recently after the holidays because I know that all of us come back from the holidays on day 1 feeling like, "Oh, we feel better because we had a break," and some
yep,
may have had, like, a busy break, so maybe it might not as refreshed, but people come back generally feeling like, "Okay, I had a break," but quickly day 1, day 2, you are like,
yep,
"I need another vacation," because already, like, this is overwhelming, everybody's pulling at me in all directions, so I held this masterclass specifically for women to have a space where I name and acknowledge the things that we see day in, day out, the common patterns around what leads to them being overwhelmed and feeling out of control in everything that they have to manage at work. And a lot of it is setting those boundaries and the concerns that are raised when we do establish boundaries. But you're right; it's all about communication up front. I think one of the most impactful moments in that masterclass was I had said to these women, "Your energy is being depleted to fund someone else's career advancement
that's a good one. Yep,
because they are doing all of the firefighting and operational work that just seems to be delegated onto them from all different directions. And we, as caretakers, generally say, yes, 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 I can do that. I got it. I got it." And getting them to think a bit more about saying no to things and why they should be saying no to things, how to categorize, how to prioritize,
yep,
and be more intentional about taking on more strategic work and saying no to the operational and firefighting and delegating that away. Because if they just keep themselves too busy and doing that low impact work, because it is
yep,
low impact, it's like keep the lights on work, it's not
yep.
revenue
The
generating.
housekeeping, yep,
Yes.
the side
Then
projects, yep,
the people that are making time for that, they're the ones that are gonna get promoted. They're the ones that are have the visibility. They're in the rooms that they need to be in, and so I felt that was a mic drop of, "This is what you're doing, actually," and I hope that got through to them in the way that it felt like it did in the master class, but it was very interesting to see it from this side now that I'm out of it and I'm seeing, that this is something that we're still battling with day in and day out. When do we say no? If I say no, is there going to be repercussion? And how do I even communicate my boundaries?
It's tough, like, and I know, like, the overarching kinda job uncertainty landscape isn't helping, right?
Yeah.
The level of empowerment that people are genuinely feeling and saying no, and that's where I really coach people on, you're not saying no if you showcase what you're doing and why you can't take more on, right? And again, just going back to that, like, controlling your message and showing that you're in control of what you're focused on. Because I think what we don't realize enough that even like as a direct manager, I'm not keeping full account of everything on, my directs plates. I'm expecting them to do that, right? Just like my manager's expecting me to do that. So he's going to keep asking me to do stuff. And then at some point, I'm going to say, actually, I can't take this thing on because let's go through everything that's on my plate. And it's like, oh, yes, of course. Right. So at the end of the day, people are logical, but
Yes.
what we're not good at is keeping track. Right? No
Yeah.
one's keeping a full account of everything that you're doing, and sometimes you're doing stuff and you're not even creating the visibility of too, which, that's a skill that we all need to develop. And I've never been disappointed that when you present something logically, that people understand. And I
Yeah.
think this becomes an emotional thing rather than something that we're really like hyper logical about. And I've never seen it lead to a bad outcome when somebody's just being really like, "Actually, all this." And so I just encourage people to, like, just be a little bit more intentional, like you said, right? Listen, it's really great that you're driving these classes and you're teaching people these skills because where do we learn this? Where do we learn how to be good planners, right? And, I
Yeah.
think we some people have natural ability to do it. My years as a project manager really kind of, gave me like that opportunity to build this muscle in a really, really strong way that I leverage to this day. But otherwise, like I spend time like teaching my kids like how to do this planning because I just see it so much of it. Like the adults I work with, I'm like, oh right, we don't teach the skill. And it's a life skill, it's a survival skill. And it gets even more tricky. Like one of the other points I wanted to make is it's we're talking about the work context. The additive work, like the additive load that we have on our plate is always work plus personal. Saying no in a personal situation is a lot harder, actually, in many cases than it is at work because there's personal relationships at stake too. The journey I've been on that side is, and this is a hard one. It's like learning how to be okay with disappointing people. That is just not a skill that we learn. Like, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to use that language with it's like you're going to disappoint people in your life, and you got to be okay with that. And that is not an easy one. But if you just hold yourself to like I'm actually just doing my best in every any given moment, this is the best I can do and that's what I have to offer, and communicate that with clarity, then it kind of helps. But it can be really tricky and you got to shed yourself of a lot of things that we carry on how we were raised when it comes to saying no to the people in our personal lives.
So we are getting to the end of time. As always, I love to end it with this question. And so I'm going to ask it of you. If you could rewrite one old leadership rule about how leaders should show up or what it takes to advance, especially for women, what would it be?
Loved reflecting on this question, and the answer came really easy to me because it's something that I talk about quite a bit, and I think it extends beyond applying to women. I would love to rewrite the rules on executive presence. So I think we put so much energy and time into having the right type of people present ideas and perspectives up the ladder, and it's really not inclusive. That unlocks career mobility as well. There's so much bias built into who are the people that actually have the executive presence that can cater to our executives. So I would love to turn that on its head. I've had this strong feelings about it for many, many years. I think AI changes this dramatically if we let it, because I think now this ability, because I mean, I understand, like I empathize even as an M1 manager, it's hard to reason over a lot of things. You need to be talking to people who can synthesize messages. But now with AI can do that for us actually. So, I would love to turn that on its head. And what does that mean? It means giving people an opportunity that maybe don't fit a certain profile or a certain mold, that's blocking them from bringing their ideas directly to the people that need to hear it. And, imagining a corporate system that rewards the people who are discovering the ideas over the people that are the ones who can really deliver the message. And I think actually, if we don't do it, we could miss the future. We should be in a highly creative cycle right now where we're really building solutions. And I'm seeing some people come up with some amazing ideas. They're not the typical ones that are going to be presenting to executives. And if we don't figure out how to make a change there, we could miss a lot of opportunity.
I agree. I've always bristled at executive presence, the term of it, because to me it did feel very biased
So
and coded.
biased.
And so
Yep.
you're right. And we need to give them the opportunity to be able to speak to those different levels, right, of management or leadership and the executives because that helps them grow. And if there's a concern, if somebody can present in a way that is more succinct for C-level, because C-level, like you don't have a lot of time, you really
Yep.
got to narrow down your message, then coach and work with them on that. But we should not be gatekeeping access to leadership in that way. And it is a benefit to those executive leaders to make the time to see what people that are in those roles that are customer facing what are they experiencing,
Yep.
and what innovations coming out of, some of
Yep.
these different industries, especially with Microsoft, because you work with everybody. What are the great stories that can be told from the field, you know?
And I would even take it a step further. I think there's an access thing, like let's coach people to go be successful in the rooms they're not invited into typically. But I also think let's let people make missteps because if you got AI transcribing the discussion, you can always get the executive summary afterwards. And I've
Yeah,
sat through lots of messy conversations where I have a different level of patience now because I can listen to all the details and and Copilot's helping me summarize as we go.
yeah.
So come on, we've got the tools. Let's use the tools to create a more inclusive future, which is really a big part of what the opportunity is for us right now. So, executive presence, yes. Don't love our definition of that now and would love to see that change.
We're gonna change it.
If
Love
anybody
that.
can, you can.
Well, thank you so much for spending some
Thank
time
you,
with me
Lori.
today. I know you're busy, but I do appreciate the
Yes.
time that you gave us.
I was looking forward to it all week. This, like I said, this is a very busy month. This is my last meeting of the month. This is the dessert. I've been looking forward to this all week.
The leadership advice that got many women this far will not necessarily get them where they want to go next. This phase of your career is not about working harder. It's about working strategically by deciding which rules still apply and which ones you are finally ready to outgrow. If this conversation resonated, stay with us, subscribe to the podcast, and join me here every Sunday for new episodes. And if it gave you language for something you've been carrying quietly, share it with another woman in your network who needs to hear it too. Until next time, lead with intention, question everything, and change the rules for the better. I'm Lori Lalonde, and this is Leadership Recalibrated.